On today's Jerusalem Dateline, Israel agrees to humanitarian pauses while the IDF closes in on the Hamas stronghold in Gaza. Plus, the growing influence of Hezbollah in Iran in Latin America. And Jews and Christians offer support and practical help to displaced families. And conversation and song from singer-composer Yair Levi. All this and more coming up on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. The IDF says northern Gaza is no longer under the control of Hamas. And as you'll see, they also uncovered a Hamas command center underneath one of Gaza's largest hospitals. A key focus of the war is now on Gaza's main hospitals. The IDF revealed evidence that it believes indicates Israeli hostages were being held underneath the Al-Rantisi Children's Hospital in Gaza.
We are now in the basement, and in this basement we found a motorcycle. So they came back from the massacre on the 7th of October into Rantisi Hospital with hostages on a motorcycle.
IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari made a video tour of what Israel discovered under the hospital.
A woman, clothes, and a rope. A rope next to the legs. And look above this, look above it. It's a baby bottle. It's a baby bottle in a basement.
They found an improvised toilet, diapers, and a living space with curtains, and a tunnel inside the hospital. They also found a large weapon stash, including explosive belts, grenades, weapons, and RPG missiles.
I want you to understand, this kind of gear is a gear for a major fight. These are explosives. These are vest with explosives. Yeah, it's a body vest for terrorists to explode on forces, among hospitals, among patients. This is Hamas firing RPGs for hospitals. The world has to understand who is Israel fighting against.
The IDF also showed how Israel is providing humanitarian aid for Palestinians, releasing audio of this conversation between an Israeli official and the Director General of the Shifa Hospital, arranging incubators for Palestinian babies, along with pictures of the incubators on their way to Gaza. On the military front, Israel's defense minister says the IDF's campaign is succeeding.
Hamas isn't capable of stopping the IDF. The IDF is advancing to every necessary location. The Hamas terrorist organization has lost control of Gaza. Terrorists are fleeing south, civilians are looting Hamas bases, and they have no confidence in their government.
The IDF is also capturing more of Hamas's infrastructure, including its parliament, where Israeli soldiers took this picture. In its battle to eliminate Hamas as a threat, Israel's foreign minister says the diplomatic clock is ticking. Eli Cohen says the diplomatic window will remain open for 2 or 3 more weeks before international pressure increases significantly on Israel to slow down or stop the military campaign in Gaza. And in another development, the Washington Post reporting new evidence suggests Hamas's goals on October 7th were much more ambitious than previously thought. The paper saying intelligence information indicated if the first wave succeeded, Hamas terrorists plan to go deeper into Israel and potentially strike larger cities. As Israel keeps up its war against Hamas terrorists, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told Fox News' Sean Hannity that Israel's fight is America's fight.
In fact, the American people across the board, the American government, Congress, the Senate, the President, everybody has been very, very strong for Israel because they understand that our fight is your fight. And our victory is your victory. And there is no substitute for victory.
Netanyahu said just like in the 1930s, attacks on the Jewish people don't stop with them.
And what the anti-Semites don't realize is the attacks start with the Jews, on the Jews, but they never end there. That's what happened in the Holocaust. People said, oh, well, you know, the attacks of the Nazis on the Jews before World War II, or even the beginning, that's okay. No, it wasn't, because it afflicted all of humanity, all of civilization. And that's what you have here too. The reason they're attacking Israel is this axis of terror understands that we're the forward position of the West and of civilization. And we're just a stumbling block on the way to you.
And beyond the fight with Hamas, a potentially ominous warning, as the battle between Hezbollah and Israel is now escalating day by day. One expert saying it's no longer just a conflict, but a low-scale war. Dead man walking. That's how Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu describes the leader of Hamas in Gaza, the 61-year-old Yair Levi. He orchestrated the October 7th terror attacks. Now he's the top terrorist on Israel's most wanted list. George Thomas has more.
A murderer and terrorist, notoriously wanted by Israeli security, Yair Levi is the leader of Hamas terrorist organization in Gaza.
9 days after Hamas's terror attacks, the IDF put out this video declaring Yair Levi Israel's most wanted man.
The IDF considers Sinwar a direct enemy of the State of Israel, and his genocidal terrorist organization, Hamas, is a threat to the entire world.
In 2015, the State Department designated Sinwar as a terrorist. 2 years later, he became chief of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Israel says Sinwar has repeatedly called for the death of Israelis.
سيهاجم شعبنا كل المستوطنات مرة واحدة. سيجد كل واحد منهم إما سكينا يطعن به أو سيارة يدهس بها أو زجاجة حارقة يشعل بها قلوبكم.
Days after the October 7th attacks, Israel put Sinwar on a kill list, accusing him of masterminding the attacks. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Sinwar is now a dead man walking.
The Hamas terrorist organization has no boundaries. Israel's citizens witnessed this firsthand on October 7th, when they saw the murders, abuse, brutality, rape, kidnapping, and other atrocities conducted by the terrorists. Hamas leadership is responsible for this, and we will get to them, we will get to Yair Levi, and we will eliminate him.
Israel's defense minister telling Gazans that if they want the war to end soon, they should help find and kill the 61-year-old Palestinian dubbed Gaza's bin Laden.
Hamas, an Iranian proxy, sent thousands of its fighters across the Gaza border that Saturday morning, a month ago, into some 20 towns and villages here in southern Israel, killing more than 1,400 people.
Days later, Israel launched Operation Swords of Iron, vowing to eliminate the terror group from the coastal enclave.
One thing I can say to the citizens of Israel at the end of the war, there will no longer be Hamas in Gaza. There will be no security threat from the Gaza Strip to Israel. And Israel will have complete freedom of action to carry out any security actions it needs against anyone who threatens us.
Netanyahu compared Sinwar to Hitler, accusing him of hiding in a bunker while his people in Gaza suffer.
Yair Levi hides in his bunker and lets the Hamas field commanders die in the field. In our forces, our commanders head to the front line, leading their troops, charging forward and making real achievements in the field.
George Thomas, CBN News, Southern Israel.
Coming up, the war against Israel reaches South America. See how far Iran is willing to go to destroy Israel when we come back. Israel faces enemies not only in the Middle East, but also in Latin America, in part because of the growing influence of Iran and the presence of Hezbollah. Dale Hurd has the story.
Brazilian police foiled a terror attack last week against Jewish targets after a tip from Israel's spy agency Mossad. 2 members of Hezbollah were arrested. This in a region that saw horrific bombings in 1992 and 1994, both the work of Hezbollah and Iran. During a time of war in the Middle East, the growing influence of Iran and Hezbollah in Latin America creates not only a renewed strategic threat to the United States, but a fresh danger to Latin America's Jewish community. Dr. Evan Ellis is a Latin American specialist at the U.S. Army War College.
If what is happening in the Middle East right now, heats up into a hot war between the United States and Iran. One can expect that Iran will seek to mobilize its proxy networks, Hezbollah and others throughout the hemisphere. And so it's not unthinkable, numerous attacks that could be undertaken against both Israeli and Jewish community targets and U.S. targets.
Iran's influence can be seen behind the decisions of 4 Latin American nations to remove or recall their ambassadors from Israel after it attacked Hamas in Gaza. Chile, Bolivia, Honduras, and Colombia. The Bolivian government said it will cut diplomatic ties with Israel. Iran has been forging military and business alliances with dictators and corrupt leaders in Latin America for decades, most famously with Venezuela, which is helping Iran build drones and hosting camps for Hezbollah fighters and members of Iran's Quds force. Latin Americans are also getting a steady diet of anti-U.S. programming through Iran's Hispan TV, which blankets the region. Earlier this year, Brazil's socialist government ignored U.S. protests and allowed Iran to dock 2 warships in Rio de Janeiro. In Buenos Aires, Dr. Ariel Gelblung with the Simon Wiesenthal Center says the fact that Iranian and Hezbollah agents are operating freely in Latin America has Jews in the region on alert.
We are all worried here in Argentina and in all Latin America about this. If they can't attack in southern Lebanon to Israel, they will try in another place. There are worries, of course, to protect the Jewish community in this country.
Latin America has become a win-win situation for Iran as it builds profitable alliances for itself while helping strengthen governments that are hostile to the United States and to Israel. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Up next, Jews and Christians working hand in hand to help Israelis fleeing constant barrages of rocket attacks. Jews and Christians are pooling resources to provide a safe haven in Jerusalem for Israelis escaping the fighting along the Gaza border. Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl brings us the story.
The smell of chicken cooking on the barbecue, the sounds of friendly conversation, and making a fun project from donated flowers. It's a welcome change for some who've suffered tremendous loss and heartache since October 7th.
We've got dozens of evacuees from the Gaza border area community that was no longer safe, and they're afraid to go back. This is a trauma that is going to exist for the rest of their lives and their children's lives and their grandchildren's lives.
To soften the blow of this trauma, Christian and Jewish organizations have come together to cover hotel costs for the evacuees, as well as projects for the children.
We've been putting them up in this hotel, and tonight we're doing a beautiful barbecue for them, along with a workshop where the kids are making floral arrangements to go into Shabbat. If you're in a community that's 15 seconds notice anytime rockets have been fired, and there have been thousands, the kids weren't able to leave their houses.
Jonathan Feldstein started the Genesis 123 Foundation as a bridge between Jews and Christians with Israel.
What's so nice is that this is a partnership with Jews and Christians all over the world. I'm sending out updates on a regular basis, mostly to Christian friends, telling them thank you.
John Enerson is one of several Christian representatives taking part in the effort.
What we're doing now, what Christians do now, makes a big difference. Giving of their livelihood to support the Jewish people who now had to flee their homes from the Hamas attacks in the south and live in hotels with their families who've been in bomb shelters for days on end. And so we are pitching in any way that we can. I represent all the Christians who've donated through Cry for Zion to help refugees from the rockets down south.
These evacuees traveled from a rural area 6 miles from Gaza.
For most of them, coming here to Jerusalem is the first time they've actually met Christians. And they are so overwhelmed at the love that's coming from Christians all over the world. It makes me emotional just thinking about it, because I get to be the Orthodox Jewish partner bringing all of this together.
While signs of healing are evident in the children's smiles and dancing, terror remains a reality for those still near the Gaza border.
It's overwhelming, because as much as I have my faith, I'm still a 58-year-old man with a son in the army and a son-in-law in the army and 3 little grandchildren who are under 5. We need our Christian friends all over the world to stand with us. This is the opportunity, since the worst horror before us until now, the Holocaust, Christians didn't speak up then, by and large. This is that opportunity. I just pray that we will come out of this stronger, and I say unified, I don't mean only Jews and Christians together.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Insight into the information war from singer-composer Yair Levi, plus music to soothe the soul. Singer and composer Yair Levi builds bridges through music across cultural and religious divides. He visited our studio recently and shared his thoughts about Israel's information war, and he also shared a song with us. Take a look. Yair Levi, thanks for joining us. You're a singer, composer, planning events, and you're also a former member of the Israeli version of the Navy SEALs. You know, what happened on October 7th, even that day and very soon after that event, people started thinking, did it really happen? Isn't that fake news? How do you respond to people that are saying that?
Unfortunately, when I've been in the US and I met people that support Israel, they came after the event and showed me a lot of videos on TikTok mostly that showing a fake news. And by the way, it was while my account on TikTok was blocked because they said that I'm posting a fake news. So I think it's like a crazy world that we're living in. And I think that people need to be very careful from where they read news and from who. And I think it's so important that each one of us will act and share the truth on social media with his friends in his work, and because each one of us, we are kind of an ambassadors of the truth. And when I've been in the US, I spoke a lot with people that love Israel and want to support, but feel embarrassed because they feel like maybe Israel did the terrible things. Mm-hmm. So I told them, listen, now you heard the truth from me. I'm not like I wasn't in the field. I know exactly how what's happened, and my friends, 2 of my friends just died in the first day. I know exactly what's happened. I told you the truth. Now you are the ambassadors, because when we are not acting, so the other side sharing so many fake news, and this is how the algorithm works. Mm-hmm. We need to act. We need to share the truth. Each one of us is ambassador, and this is the way to beat this. To win in this fight against the fake news.
So there's not only the military campaign going on in Gaza and against Hezbollah, but there's a information war going on right now.
Yeah, it's an information war and a spiritual war, by the way. You know, in Psalms 11, it's beautiful to see that God said that this war of the evil will be against people with honest heart. And you ask us, what is honest heart? It's not so people of Israel. It said honest heart. And by the way, the word violence in this chapter is in Hebrew is Hamas.
Right now, also there's a equivalence that people are saying, well, maybe that happened on October 7th, but now Israel is bombing Gaza and people are getting killed, children are getting killed. How do you respond to that? When they sort of put the two together and they really put Israel as the bad person?
I think that Golda Meir, former Prime Minister of Israel, said that when we will release our weapon, we will just die. And when the Arab will release their weapon, we will have peace. And I think that this is one of the reasons why it's just happened, because in the last few years, the people of Israel just released the weapon, thought that we're going to have a new Middle East very soon, and started to fight against the government, any government that wanted to take more steps against the Hamas. And we saw what's happened. And I don't think that you ever saw like the Israeli people attacking Hamas. So I think it's not, there is no similarity here. And I'm praying for the soldier of Israel that they will remember it in the battle, because I was a lot of time in a battle in Gaza too. And I remember, and I can tell you from firsthand, like we used to cancel operations not to hurt any children or any innocent people in the building. Sometimes we had like a very important operation that we canceled because we didn't want to hurt innocent people. So there is no similarity here. They just came into Israel to kill innocent people. They even didn't care about bases. They went to bases, but it wasn't the main goal of this operation. So there is no similarity.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you, Yair. Any final thoughts?
I would just want to say maybe a last thanks to our friends all over the world. I came back from the US and I saw that we have so many good friends all over the world that support Israel. So I want to say thank you, and we feel the support. We know that you are with us, and let's keep working together.
הודו לשם כי טוב, כי טוב, כי לעולם חסדו. הודו לשם כי טוב, כי טוב, כי לעולם חסדו. הודו לאלוהי האלוהים כי לעולם חסדו. הודו לאדוני האדונים כי לעולם חסדו. הודו לשם כי טוב, כי טוב, כי לעולם חסדו. הודו לשם כי טוב, כי טוב, כי לעולם חסדו.
Well, that's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. And remember to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, the release of all the hostages, the safety of Israel's soldiers, and all innocent civilians caught in harm's way. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.